Good morning everyone, and welcome to a new tutorial with Cosmos Crochet Corner. Today we are going to be showing how to make Barry the beginner bear. This is Barry, our little beginner bear that we will be making. As you can see, he features little movable arms and movable feet. He's got a cute little belly button. When we turn him around, we've got an adorable little tail on the back. This little bear is the pattern that we will be doing stitch by stitch today. Now, to make Barry, you're going to need some materials. I've chosen to use pure gold chunky yarn. I've got some black, I've got some ivory, and a little bit of taupe. Now, you can make Barry in any color that you like. You'll need the black, you'll need the ivory, but your main color you can change as you see fit. Now, if you are using chunky yarn, you will also need a 3.5mm crochet hook. You'll need your row counter, a scissor, a stitch marker, a hook or chopsticks that has got a flat end like this so that it can help you to stuff your bear properly. And of course you will need some actual stuffing to put inside. I just cut open throw pillows and use the stuffing from the inside to make my bears. Finally, you will also need some 12mm solid black safety eyes like these. Their backs look like that. Do not clip them into place until you are absolutely happy with where you have put them, because once these go on, they do not come back off again. So get your materials ready and then we will get started. To make round one, we are going to start off with a slip knot. You will find videos for all the different stitches that you need to use on my channel. If you are not sure how to make any stitch, please do go and check. Our next instruction tells us to chain 3. So that is 1, 2, and 3. We're going to work an increase in the second chain from the hook. So there's our first chain from the hook, there's our second chain. We're going to make 2 single crochets into that chain as our starting stitches. So that's single crochet number 1 and single crochet number 2. In the next stitch we need to make a 4 single crochet increase, meaning we're going to make 4 single crochets in the same stitch. That is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. By the time you've made the 4th one, you'll see that you've gone around your chain. That's exactly what we want happening. In the next stitch, which also happens to be the first stitch you worked in, we are going to make another increase. So that is 1 and 2. And that brings us to the end of round 1. So you're going to slip your stitch marker into the last stitch that you made and indicate on your round counter that you have made the first stitch of the head and body of Barry the bear. For round 2, we will be making 8 increases, which means we will make an increase in each of the 8 stitches we created in round 1. So that is 2 single crochets in each stitch. So that's single crochet 1 and single crochet 2. Then we move to the next stitch, single crochet 1, single crochet 2. We move to the next stitch, single crochet 1, single crochet 2. We move to the next stitch, making single crochet 1 and single crochet 2. We move to the next stitch, making single crochet 1 and single crochet 2. And the next stitch, single crochet 1, single crochet 2. In the next stitch, single crochet 1, single crochet 2, and then we remove our stitch marker and we make our final increase in the stitch that the stitch marker had been in. Single crochet 1 and single crochet 2, replace the stitch marker and mark down that you have completed round 2. You'll notice that I've been working over the tail that has been created. If you didn't do that, it's not the end of the world. I just prefer to do it because it gives a neater result in my opinion. For round 3, our instruction says single crochet, increase in brackets, repeated 8 times. In brackets is our small pattern that we need to do, which means in our first stitch we make a single crochet, and then in our second stitch we make an increase, which is 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So that's number 1 and that is number 2. So we've now completed that part in brackets, the single crochet followed by the increase, but we have to repeat this little pattern 8 times, and once we've repeated it 8 times we'll be back to the stitch marker. So that was once, so now we're going to do it again. For the second time, single crochet followed by an increase. So we've repeated it twice now. Then we go again, single crochet and increase, which means 3 repetitions. We go again, single crochet and increase for the 4th time, and again single crochet followed by an increase for the 5th time, single crochet, increase number 6, single crochet, increase number 7, single crochet, take out our stitch marker and make increase number 8, which completes our instructions for round 3 of the head and body. Always remember to put your stitch marker back in the very last stitch that you made. For round 4, our instruction says 2 single crochets and an increase in brackets, and we need to repeat that 8 times. So stitch number 1 gets a single crochet, stitch number 2 gets a single crochet, and stitch number 3 gets the increase. That is our pattern that we have in brackets that we need to repeat. So we've now done it once and we need to repeat it another 7 times to get to a total of 8. So it's single 1, single 2 and an increase. That's our second repetition. Then single 1, single 2 and an increase. For our third repetition, single 1, single 2 and our increase. For our fourth repetition, single 1, single 2 and an increase. For our fifth repetition, single 1, single 2 and an increase. For repetition number 6, single 1, single 2 and an increase. For repetition number 7, our final repetition, single 1, single 2 and again our increase falls in our final stitch, so we need to remove our stitch marker before we make it. And when we are done, we insert our stitch marker back into the very last stitch we just made. So that is the end of round 4. For round 5, our instruction is 3 single crochets followed by an increase in brackets, repeated 8 times, which means stitch number 1 gets a single crochet, stitch number 2 gets a single crochet, stitch number 3 gets a single crochet, and stitch number 4 gets the increase. So this is 1 repetition of our pattern in brackets. We need to do that 7 more times to complete the round. So it's stitch 1, stitch 2, stitch 3, followed by an increase. And we go again. Stitch 1, stitch 2, stitch 3, followed by an increase. And again, stitch 1, stitch 2, stitch 3, followed by an increase. Once again, stitch 1, stitch 2, stitch 3, followed by an increase. Stitch 1, stitch 2, stitch 3, followed by an increase. Stitch 1, stitch 2, stitch 3, followed by an increase, and our final repetition, stitch 1, stitch 2, stitch 3, followed by our final increase. This brings us to the end of round 5. For round 6 to 13, we're going to be repeating the same instruction, which is to make 40 single crochets, which means we're going to make 1 single crochet in each stitch. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just need to get a little bit more yarn. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. That's our final stitch. That completes round 6. Now you'll notice up until now our shape has been completely flat, but at this point our shape is starting to become a little bowl. So the first thing you need to pay attention to is this is the correct side, the side you want on the outside, and up until now it's been facing you. This is the wrong side. We are going to keep that on the inside. Now for most people when they're crocheting, at this point their crochet starts to do this, so that the bowl actually forms with the right side on the inside and the wrong side on the outside. I automatically pop it the other way around at this point, and I make sure that I keep the right side facing me so that there's no confusion at the end. You can clearly see the difference between the nice neat stitches on the outside and the rougher stitches on the inside of the piece. So you want to keep this outside towards you. Now for rows 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13, we are going to do exactly what we just did in round 6 by making 40 single crochets all the way around. As we do it, our bowl is going to become deeper and deeper and deeper, and this is going to go higher and higher and higher. So it's going to become a lot more like a bowl, and your flat shape is going to disappear. Because it's just the same stitches over and over again, we are going to play that section of the video for you in fast forward so you can see how it grows, but we are doing exactly the same thing that we just did for round 6. Okay, we have now completed round 6 to 13 where we made 40 single crochets in every row. You can see we've now got a nice little bowl happening here that's gotten quite deep, and the entire way through I've kept the right side facing me and the wrong side facing the inside. We will now carry on with round number 14, in which our instruction is to make 3 single crochets and then a decrease in brackets, followed by repeated 8 times. If you haven't made a decrease before, I do have a video in my playlist that tells you exactly how to create a decrease. Please study that before carrying on with this round. Now, to follow our instruction, that means stitch number 1 gets a single crochet, stitch number 2 gets a single crochet, and stitch number 3 gets a single crochet. Then for stitch number 4 and stitch number 5, we are going to crochet them together with an invisible decrease. So we go under the first front loop of stitch number 4, under the second front loop belonging to stitch number 5, so that we've got both front loops on our hook. We hook our yarn, we pull it through the front loops so that we've got 2 loops on our hook. We hook our yarn and we pull through both loops. That is our decrease made. Now you want to be careful when you move on after the decrease. You'll see it looks like you've got a stitch over here, but that's part of your decrease. You actually want to go into this stitch here. So please do be careful after decreases. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then your second decrease. 1 and 2 and 3, followed by your third decrease, then 1, 2, 3, followed by a decrease, and 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 for your final repetition, 1, 2, 3, followed by a decrease. The noise in the background is the neighbors installing new cupboards, so I do apologize for the noise, but it will happen intermittently as we are recording. This brings you to the end of round 14, and you'll notice that your opening is now becoming slightly smaller. For round 15, our instruction says 2 single crochet followed by a decrease in brackets. We need to repeat this 8 times. So stitch number 1 gets a single crochet, stitch number 2 gets a single crochet, and stitch number 3 and 4 are crocheted together using an invisible decrease. We then repeat this pattern 8 times until we reach the stitch marker. So it's single 1, single 2, followed by decrease number 2, single 1, single 2, followed by decrease number 3, single 1, single 2, followed by decrease number 4, single 1, single 2, followed by decrease number 5, single 1, single 2, followed by decrease number 6, single 1, single 2, followed by decrease number 7, single 1, single 2, followed by decrease number 8. And that brings us to the end of round 15. In the next clip we are going to be inserting our safety eyes. What I do to make sure that I don't lose my stitch is I take my stitch marker, I insert it into the loop I've got on my hook, and I lock it closed before removing my hook. That way my stitch is safe and it can't be pulled out. Now that we have completed round 15, it is time to insert our safety eyes. In order to do that, first you need to look at the top. You'll see over here that was where we started with 2 stitches next to each other. I consider that my center line of the head. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the head closed on that line. So you're just squishing your head flat, but you're making sure that the fold is on that line. So once you've folded your head closed, this is what you end up with. Okay, I do this to help me find the correct positioning, because now I've got the front half of my head facing me and the back half of my head is indented here, so I won't be placing my eyes on the wrong side. I then start off by counting my rounds. Now we want to insert our safety eyes between round 10 and round 11. Now as I've said, here is our starting point where the fold is, so we're going to count from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this line here falls between round 10 and round 11. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have found your center point. I generally check from the center stitch there. This needs to go over there. I believe that is roughly the center. Now that I have located the center, I take a second pin and I count from the center. 1 stitch, 2 stitches, 3 stitches, because for this pattern our eyes need to be 6 stitches apart. I then take my center stitch and I move it, center pin, and I move it. Stitch 1, stitch 2, and stitch 3. Now as you can see, they are on the same line. This is 10 rounds down, the next round would be 11. To be double sure that you've got it right, you can count the stitches to the fold. So this side it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. Count on the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches. So we've got 1 extra stitch on this side. So I am going to move my stitch pin 1 more. The pattern says 6 stitches, but 7 stitches will work as well, and that allows us to have it exactly centralized. Now what we want to do here is you want to replace your pins with your safety eyes. So you take your safety eye, you're going to open up a little bit so that you can get to the inside. I lift my pin out so that I can see which hole it's going into, and I stick my safety eye into that same hole that the pin is in. Then I pull my pin out completely so I'm able to push my safety eye through. You'll see the back of the safety eye is now coming out there. Then do the same with the second safety eye. Finding the same hole. Pull out the pin. And sometimes it can be tricky, especially if you crochet tightly like I do. There we go. Fold it closed again. And check that you are happy with the position of your eyes, because like I've said earlier, once the backs go on, they do not come back off again. So you are stuck with wherever you have placed your eyes. Once you are happy, you can go to the inside, take your backing, pop it on, and this part takes a little bit of strength as you push it in, but make sure it clips in properly. You want it nice and tight, especially if you're going to give this to a child. You want to be sure that this eye never ever comes out again. If you find it too difficult to press it down, this is an excellent time to locate your husband, boyfriend, father, brother, anyone with muscles, and have them clip it down for you. So at this point, that is what you should have. Looks a little bit like a little alien, but we will fix that as we carry on. For round 16, our instruction is to make a single crochet followed by a decrease and to repeat that 8 times. So stitch number 1 gets a single crochet, and stitch number 2 and 3 get crocheted together with a decrease, and we then repeat that pattern until we reach our stitch marker again, which will be 8 repetitions in total. So it's a single crochet followed by a decrease, single crochet followed by a decrease, and a single crochet followed by a decrease, single crochet followed by a decrease, and again a single crochet followed by a decrease, single crochet followed by a decrease, our last single crochet, and then we need to remove our stitch marker to be able to make our decrease across the last 2 stitches of the round. That is our decrease, and that brings us to the end of round 16. For round 17, our instruction is to make 2 single crochets followed by a decrease. So that's single crochet number 1, single crochet number 2, and then in stitch 3 and 4 get crocheted together by a decrease. And again, single crochet number 1, single crochet number 2 followed by a decrease. You'll notice at this point your opening is starting to get quite small. Don't worry about it, this is the smallest it's going to be. We will be stuffing a little bit later. The reason we do it this way is if you stuff first and then make your decreases, your tension changes and you end up with holes instead of a nice smooth crocheted result. If you create your decreases first and then stuff afterwards, which is a little bit more tricky because you've got a smaller hole, but completely doable, then you get a nice smooth result right from the word go, even when you are a beginner and not a pro who's made a million decreases before. So that's our final decrease of a round, which brings us to the end of round 17. Round 18 requires us to make 12 single crochets all the way around, so it's simply one single crochet in each stitch that we've got. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Now before we carry on with the next round, we are going to be stuffing the head. So again, we take our stitch marker, we insert it into the loop that's currently on the hook, and we lock the stitch marker, removing the hook so that we can work with the stuffing nicely without worrying about losing our stitch that is currently on the hook like that. Okay, in order to stuff, we're going to need our crochet hook that has a flat end and lots of stuffing, as well as the head we've crocheted so far. So in the beginning, it's fairly easy. You just take some stuffing and you push it into the opening. It's small, but you should still be able to get one finger through the opening at this point. So it's not completely tiny. It takes a little bit of practice to stuff this way, but it's well worth it given that you have such a nice result with your decreased stitches. So I'm just pushing in the stuffing. You can see it's still very loose, so we need a lot more stuffing to go in there. Stuffing is very important. Now you can crochet a piece perfectly and it can look so beautiful, and then if you put in the wrong amount of stuffing or you put it in the wrong way, the whole thing becomes lumpy and wonky and it starts looking really ugly. And for me personally, that was always a great disappointment when I put so much effort into crocheting something to make it nice, and then once I stuff it, it looks really horrible. So I've learned over the years that how you stuff your piece is very important. It actually makes or breaks the final look of your toy. So it's well worth taking your time with it and making sure that you round your shapes out nicely. As you can see, it's starting to fill up a little bit now. I'm still just using one finger to stuff it in, but as I'm stuffing, I'm sort of moving my finger to the sides to make sure that I get a nice round shape to my head. And we just keep adding. I'll see as I turn, we keep pushing it into the sides. Like if you look at it at this point, it's starting to fill out, but here you can clearly see there's an indentation that shouldn't be there. So what we want to do is take a bit more stuffing and just push it into that area where we had the indentation until it rounds out nicely. And we just keep doing this. We keep looking for indentations that we don't want, adding stuffing and smoothing out the shape a little bit at a time until it is nice and round. I find that the type of stuffing you use also makes a difference. Most places would recommend that you use a ball type stuffing, but I find that that creates a very lumpy and bumpy result in the final toy, which is why I ended up cutting open your little decorative square throw pillows that you can buy for quite cheaply in my country. And it's got this nice and smooth stuffing on the inside, which creates a nice smooth shape once you actually fill up your toy with stuffing. It ended up being significantly cheaper than buying the recommended stuffings, and the results are a lot better. You can see we're starting to get towards the full stage now, and I am making sure that I get a very nice even result. You can see here there's still a hole because my pinky can fit in there easily, so we still need to put a bit of stuffing in there. Also, this is going to be the neck area, and you want the neck to be able to support the head, so you want to make sure that you stuff it nice and tightly when you get to the neck area to make sure that it's able to support the head later on. As you can see, that's quite a lot of stuffing that's going into this, even though the head is only slightly bigger than a tennis ball. Okay, so this is what we've got at the moment. Now, one thing that I also find helps, because sometimes you still get a bit of unevenness like there, no matter how nicely you've pressed and stuffed, I find what helps is to actually press on the outside with your hands, sort of like you did when you were young and you were playing with mud or clay to create little balls, because pressure from the outside can also change the shape of the stuffing on the inside, and you can actually move it from the outside by doing that to create more of the result that you actually want, like this. Another important thing is you don't want to overstuff and you don't want to understuff. If you've overstuffed, you'll notice that you'll start seeing your stuffing through your stitches. If you see that, you've put too much stuffing in and it's not right. But you also don't want to understuff. You want your shape to have this nice firm look to it. One way to tell is to actually press on it and let go. If it jumps back into shape, you have stuffed the correct amount. If the indentation stays, you have understuffed and you need to add more stuffing. So when you press and let go, it should spring back into the form that you have stuffed it to. So this is how far we have stuffed it, and then we will carry on crocheting the body. For round 19, our instruction says to create a single crochet followed by an increase and to repeat that 6 times. So stitch number 1 gets a single crochet, stitch number 2, I just want to make sure that I get all of my yarn, there we go, gets an increase, which I'll remind you is 2 single crochets made into the same spot, and we are then going to repeat that 6 times. So a single crochet followed by an increase, that's our second time that we've done this, and then a single crochet followed by an increase, that's our third time. You can see we're starting to go a little bit bigger again, and a single crochet. Oh gosh, you'll notice we have run out of yarn. So at this point, this happens to you occasionally, it is time to add a new piece of yarn. So what I do is I take my new yarn and I let it hang over my hand with the short end facing my palm, and I just put it around my hand the same way I normally would to crochet. I then take this short end that is left and I join it to the short end I've got in my hand. So when I'm hooking, I hook from the new yarn, I don't hook from the short end, and I just pull the new yarn through. You can see I've got my 2 short ends there, and I keep hooking from the end that is attached to the yarn bally. Then you just put your ends to the side and you carry on working as if the change never happened. So our next stitch needs to be an increase. single crochet, and an increase. We've also got a video that shows just that one piece of how to add the yarn in. If you weren't able to see nicely, you can go to our YouTube channel and have a look at that specific part of how to join a new piece of yarn into your work. And a single, and in our final stitch we are going to make an increase, which brings us to the end of round 19. Put your stitch marker back in. Now you've got these two loose ends here. If you ran out of wool like I did, you probably didn't, because you'll have started with a new yarn ball. I at this point just knot them together gently, don't pull too tightly because that will change the tension of the stitches on the outside. This is just to make sure that it doesn't come loose later on. And then I pop those two loose ends onto the inside like that, and nobody will ever know that they are there. They just become a part of your stuffing. For round 20 we will be doing 18 single crochets, so that is 1 single crochet in each stitch that we have made. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, which brings us to the end of round 20. For round 21 we will be making 2 single crochets followed by an increase, and we will repeat that 6 times. So that's 1 and 2, followed by an increase, 1 and 2, followed by an increase, 1, 2, followed by an increase, 1, 2, followed by an increase, 1 and 2, followed by an increase, 1, 2, followed by our final increase, which brings us to the end of round 21. For round 22 we will be making 24 single crochets, so that is 1 in each stitch that we've made. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24, which brings us to the end of round 22. For round 23 we are going to make 3 single crochets followed by an increase. So that's single crochet 1, stitch 2 gets a single crochet, stitch 3 gets a single crochet, and stitch 4 gets an increase, which is 2 single crochets in the same stitch. We are then going to repeat this 6 times. That's 1, 2, 3, and an increase, 1, 2, 3, and an increase, 1, 2, 3, and an increase, 1, 2, 3, and an increase. Final repetition. 1, 2, 3, and an increase, which brings us to the end of round 23. For round 24, 25 and 26 we will be making 30 single crochets, so 1 single crochet in each stitch from the previous round. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. That brings us to the end of round 24. Round 25 and 26 is exactly the same as round 24. So we are going to play this section for you and fast forward as we make 30 single crochets in each round. For round 27 our pattern changes. We are now going to do 3 single crochets followed by a decrease, and we are going to repeat that 6 times. So we're starting to go smaller again. So stitch 1 gets a single crochet, stitch 2 gets a single crochet, stitch 3 gets a single crochet, stitch 4 and 5 get crocheted together with the use of a decrease through the front loops. And we are then repeating this pattern 6 times. So it is 1, 2, 3, and a decrease. As you can see, we're going narrower again now. So that's 1, 2, 3, and a decrease, 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 which brings us to the end of round 27. For round 28 we are going to be making 2 single crochets followed by a decrease, and we are going to repeat that pattern 6 times. So stitch 1 got a single crochet, stitch 2 got a single crochet, and stitch 3 and 4 get crocheted together with a decrease. So it's 1, 2, followed by a decrease, and we are repeating this 6 times until we get to the stitch marker at the end of a round. So that is 1, 2, and a decrease. 1, 2, and a decrease. 1, 2, and a decrease. 1, 2, and our decrease. Which brings us to the end of round 28. Before we carry on with round 29, we are going to start stuffing the body. So I'm again clipping my stitch marker into the loop on the hook, just to make sure that I don't lose my stitch. Okay, at this point we're just going to do a little bit of stuffing. We want to make sure that we've got enough stuffing into the neck area to support the head, but we don't want to stuff it all the way because we don't want to create an issue with the decreases that we still have to make. So you're going to make sure that you get a lot of stuffing into the neck area, and you're going to compress it down, but you're not going to stuff it all the way full. See, just like that, it looks like it's full, but you can see that there's actually quite a lot of space there, and that's exactly the type of look that we want at this point, because we only wanted to make sure that we get stuffing into this area here while that is still empty. We will now carry on crocheting, and as we close this hole up, we will keep adding more stuffing to the toy until the body is properly stuffed. For round 29, we are going to make a single crochet followed by a decrease, and we're going to repeat that 6 times. So it's a single crochet and stitch 1, and stitch 2 and 3 gets crocheted together using a decrease. Single crochet followed by a decrease. Our hole, that is the opening, will be getting smaller quite rapidly at this point. Single crochet followed by a decrease, and another single crochet followed by a decrease, single crochet followed by another decrease, single crochet, and the last decrease, which brings us to the end of round 29. Now you can add a little bit more stuffing at this point if you'd like. I prefer not to, because I want my decreases to be nice and tight, and I would rather stuff through a much smaller hole than this one to ensure that I've got nice stitches. Round 30 is the final round of the head and body, and it wants us to make 6 decreases. So we are going to decrease across stitch 1 and 2. Now we're going to decrease again across stitch 3 and 4. and again across stitch 5 and 6. Once more across stitch 7 and 8. And again across stitch 9 and 10. And our final decrease will be made across stitch 11 and 12. Our instruction then says to finish off. How we finish off is with a slip stitch. Now to do that, you're going to go to your next stitch, you're going to go through the stitch, you're going to hook your yarn, you're going to pull it back through the stitch and through the loop that is on your hook, like that. We are then going to need our scissor. We're going to leave a short tail. It doesn't need to be a long one. We won't be sewing with it. Cut it off, and you just pull your hook until the tail pops all the way through. This secures your stitch. As you can see, it's still very empty and we need to do a bit more stuffing, which we'll show you how to do in the next clip. Okay, time to do the last bit of stuffing. Now you'll see, even though we finished off, we still have a small hole over here, and your hook or chopsticks or whatever you've got that's got a flat end would fit nicely. I'm using a 5mm hook, which fits perfectly through that hole. So you take a little bit of stuffing. It's important to not take too much at a time, because the more you take, the harder this is to do. It's actually easier. You put it across the hole like that. You're going to take the flat end and you're just going to start pushing it into the body with the flat end of the hook. As you can see, if your piece of stuffing isn't too big, it goes in fairly easily. This can take a little bit of practice to get right, so don't get frustrated if you struggle at first. Just try and try again. Take a bit more and just keep adding to your body stuffing. You'll find you've got quite a bit of space in there that needs filling up if you stuffed the same as me throughout the video. There we go. Like I said, the advantage is that you end up having really nice decreased stitches that are of an even tension with the rest of your stitches, instead of having holes because your tension changed as a result of stuffing while crocheting. You can see it's starting to fill out now, but it's not enough yet. We need to stuff a bit more in there. Remember, we don't want to understuff and we don't want to overstuff either. That piece is a little bit big. Now, same as I did with my finger by pushing stuffing to the sides, I can do with the back of a crochet hook. By stuffing it in that way, I am able to push the stuffing to the side where I exactly would like it to be. We're still trying to create a nice smooth round shape all the way through so that the body can be nice and even. We don't want a lumpy result, we don't want bumps, we don't want holes, we just want a nice smooth round even finish all the way around. So we keep adding stuffing until we achieve the result that we actually want to have. And again, like I said earlier, it really can make or break your product, so take your time with this. Do it properly, do it nicely. Rather spend the extra time here and have a wonderful result than rush through this part and ruin the entire toy for yourself. I think we're almost there. Just got a little bit of hole left over here that I want to fill in. Okay, let's see. When we look at it, as you turn it, you should be seeing a nice even result. When you hold it like that, the head shouldn't be flopping over, it should be nice and firm, but you should still have a bit of wiggle room there, which you'll need later when you are sewing. And that completes the stuffing section of your head and body. To finish off our body, we're going to need a tapestry needle with a big eye so that the chunky yarn can fit through it. We put the needle on the yarn, and we are simply going to weave it through these stitches and pull tight to close up this final hole that we see here. So we just go through, in and out, through, in and out, through, and pull tight. You can see as you pull tight, you're actually closing that hole up completely. I then take my needle and go into the center of it, and I just push my needle through to come out at any random spot on the body like that, and pull it through. That shows that it's nicely worked away, and you can just leave your yarn tail hanging there for now. We'll use it to tie off another piece later, but that is the end of your head and body, and this is what you should have at this point. A little weird looking little alien. There we go.